I'm Simona Cutoni and you're watching Awaz News. Ontario ending mask mandate on March 21st. Ukraine can't negotiate with gun to head, says Yoli as Trudeau presses allies. Independent Ontario MPP Roman Baber to enter Conservative Party leadership race. Patrick Brown settles lawsuit with CTV, no money exchanges hands. Trudeau commits to fighting disinformation and joining G7 climate club to achieve net zero. Tamara Leach was jailed as political prisoner in Canada for 18 days. No winning ticket for Tuesday's $40 million Lotto Max jackpot. Quebec issues 306 invitations in new Arima draw. NHL, Ontario Lottery, and Gaming Corp announces multi-year partnership. And Austin Matthews' hat-trick secures a victory over the Kraken. Union makes counter-offer on 98th day of MLB lockout. After the harshest and longest lockdowns in Canada, Ontario is finally set to remove its indiscriminate masks mandate. Moore started his announcement by highlighting that, with continued improvements and trends, Ontario will remove the mandatory masking requirement for indoor settings on March 21st, with the exception of select settings such as public transit, healthcare settings, long-term care homes, and high-risk conjugate care settings. Also, of March 21st, Ontario is removing the screening of students and staff in the education sector. Self-screening is still required on a good faith basis. The education sector will see an elimination of distancing requirements in addition to making masks recommended instead of mandatory.
You look around the world, no matter if it's CDC down in the U.S. and the rest of the world, we've been super cautious. As a matter of fact, I've been probably accused of being the most cautious leader in North America when it comes to this pandemic, but I want to be cautious. And we're going to take those recommendations and move forward with the advice of Dr. Moore, which has done an incredible job for the people of Ontario.
Okay, if assuming you're going to accept his recommendations for lifting the mask mandate, what happens if things change in the spring? Like if there is another wave, how confident are you that there's not going to be another wave of COVID in the coming weeks?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Mike. No one has a crystal ball when it comes to this pandemic, but we feel we've invested strongly in our healthcare system, into the people right around this room here have been absolute champions, and we're very, very grateful. We've all, not only Ontario, but the whole world has learned so much over the last 2 years, and we're in much better shape than we were prior to this pandemic. And I'll give one example. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was running around looking for PPE and trying to get it from overseas. And I remember saying we'll never be in that position again, and we never will. We have 3M that stood up a facility that are producing millions and millions of N95 masks. We have local companies making gowns and face shields and surgical masks too. So we're well equipped on that, and we stood that up. I should say the people of Ontario stood it up, because that's who did it in a matter of a couple months. So right now we're doing fairly well, but we're always going to be cautious. And anyone who wants to wear a mask, Mike, they're more than welcome to. It's going to be up to the people.
Good morning, Premier. Jason Godola with CHCH.
Hi, Jason.
Hey. Is it acceptable for municipalities or even public health units to continue with their mask mandates if that's the direction that they choose to go to?
Well, they're going to have to go through Dr. Moore, the Chief Medical Officer, and he's done an incredible job. But I just want to thank all the public health officers throughout the 2 years that have really worked hard, along with our frontline healthcare folks. They've done an incredible job. We wouldn't be here today if people of Ontario didn't follow the protocols that were laid out by local public health officers and the Chief Medical Officer and the great healthcare folks here.
We know how COVID-19 measures have been pretty divisive. Aren't you concerned for a lack of civility or even in some cases abuse for people who choose to keep them on?
No, you know something, we're going to move forward cautiously, and if someone wants to keep them on, God bless them, you know.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister called for a ceasefire in Russia's invasion of Ukraine today, arguing the Ukrainian government needs the breathing room as it heads into talks with Putin regime. We need to make sure to support Ukrainians while diplomatic talks are happening by imposing maximum pressure. It's more than that. Because when we do so, we give them a lever to negotiate, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly said in an interview Wednesday. An independent Ontario legislator who rose to prominence for speaking out against COVID-19 lockdowns says he will run for the Conservative leadership. Roman Baber will launch his campaign Wednesday evening and says he considers himself to be the underdog in the party's contest, competing against well-known federal Conservatives like Pierre Poilievre and Leslyn Lewis. Former Quebec Premier Jean Charest is also planning to enter the race Thursday. CTV has reached a settlement with Patrick Brown, the former Ontario Progressive Conservative leader and current mayor of Brampton, Ontario. In January 2018, Brown stepped down as a leader of the Ontario Progressive Conservatives following a CTV broadcast around allegations of sexual misconduct involving two women. Brown has denied the allegations, which have not been proven in court. The story had been updated to reflect the first woman's revised recollection of her age at the time of the alleged events. In response to the 2018 report, Brown filed a defamation lawsuit against CTV News seeking $8 million in damages. However, no money was exchanged as part of the settlement. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau held a joint news conference in Berlin with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, where he announced more funding in what he called the fight against disinformation to defend and strengthen democracy. Trudeau announced that he would renew the G7 Rapid Response Mechanism, an initiative that was introduced 4 years ago to strengthen coordination between G7 countries in responding to threats from disinformation from foreign actors.
To Canada and to democracies around the world. I'm looking forward to my conversation with Anna and with all of you. I want to thank Atlantic Brücke for the Munich Security Conference for bringing us together. It's a real honor for me to address you today. It's also very good to see Ambassador Heusgen today. Christoph, I will always remember that during your final closing speech at the UN Security Council, you chose to take part of your time to call once again for the freedom of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, the two Canadians who were arbitrarily detained in China. Thanks in part to your advocacy and the advocacy of friends and allies around the world, those two men are at home now. Thank you, Christoph. When I was preparing my notes for today's events, I remembered speaking in 2017 at the St. Matthew's Day banquet hosted by then Mayor of Hamburg, Olaf Scholz. Sigmar was there too. He actually delivered remarks right before me that night too. The world has changed in the intervening 5 years. But what I said then remains true today. Canada and Germany have long been partners on the world stage because we share a progressive vision of the world. We understand the importance of international cooperation and partnership. We value the rule of law and democracy. It's great to be back in Berlin today. Of all places, the people of Berlin know what it is to fight for democracy. I don't have to tell you how much work it takes, because you already understand that democracy never happens by accident. And as we're reminded now, it certainly doesn't continue without effort. When Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, He violated Russia's international treaty.
Last month, convoy organizer Tamara Leach was arrested on the streets of Ottawa, handcuffed like she was some violent criminal, packed into a police vehicle and taken to jail. On Monday, she was finally released, 18 days behind bars. So she's free, $5,000 bonds from herself, 20,000 bonds from a family member. She had to leave Ottawa within 24 hours, and apparently she's banned from the city and leaves Ontario in 72 hours. So she's banned from the entire province. She had to report to the police, reside where directed. She can't talk to other truckers who are charged. She's just not allowed to talk to them. So I guess this wasn't really about a crime after all. It was a political crime. There was no winning ticket sold in Tuesday's Lotto Max $40 million draw. The jackpot for the next draw on March 11th will be an estimated $50 million with two max million prizes of $1 million each for grabs. Quebec invited 306 skilled workers to apply for a permanent selection. Candidates had to have profiles in ARIMA expression of interest system with scores of at least 630 points, and they had to have a valid offer outside of the Montreal metropolitan area. Last year, a total of 3,564 candidates were invited to apply for the permanent selection by the province through ARIMA. The NHL and Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corp announced a multi-year partnership today that marks the league's first sports betting partnership in Canada. The deal designates the OLG's Proline Sportsbook product as the NHL's official sports betting partner. Proline will be the presenting sponsor of the NHL pregame of the league's Heritage Classic outdoor game Sunday between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Buffalo Sabres at Tim Hortons Field. The Leafs have a player on a mission in Austin Matthews. No longer are we getting the laid-back tame efforts. Everything he's doing is matched with intensity and a drive to win. And despite giving another 3-1 lead, the Leafs skated away with the win 6-4. Negotiators for locked-out players made their latest offer to Major League Baseball today after Commissioner Rob Manfred let them pass the deadline to reach a deal preserving a 162-game season. On the 98th day of lockout, MLB said no additional games had been canceled and talks will continue. The deadline Tuesday was the third set by MLB in past 2 weeks. Thank you for watching Awaz News and stay tuned for more updates.